Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7, and today we're going to be talking about this developer's note that just came out. I haven't read this yet, but it is the Epic 7 balance adjustment direction notification. And if you're not paying attention to Reddit and everywhere else this was posted, basically, Too Long Didn't Read, the Korean community is absolutely pissed off about a lot of things. Primarily, it looked like balance issues and a lot of stuff revolving around that, and they were really unhappy in general, at least the vocal ones, about the stream we just had, which I thought was fantastic. I guess I'm just at the point where I'm so over balance being a thing that I just don't care anymore, and I guess a lot of players do still care, especially those RTA players and arena players and stuff like that. So I wasn't fully aware all of this was going on, but nevertheless, it looks like we've got something to be said here from GM Dominial. So I have no idea what this is going to say or why or whatever. So let's just read through together. Everything's on the screen. We're good. So, hiccups. We would like to notify our heirs of our official message and news regarding the recent matters about the current meta and balance of the game. Firstly, we deeply apologize for the late notice and for causing concern among our heirs regarding gameplay. Before we address the issues of future balance adjustments, we would just like to inform you of the latest balance adjustment. Since the release of V7, we have been making various attempts to balance the heroes more appropriately, with the intention to allow more heroes loved by our players to have their roles in the battlefield. However, our own inadequacy, kind of impressive they admitted that, has led to the recent situation where we will do our best to provide you with a more enjoyable and pleasant performance balance as soon as possible. So, before I read further, I just have a couple things to say about this. For one, this is partially the player's fault where we're at right now. Obviously, Smilegate and Epic 7 could have done things completely different and we would have still been hopefully fine. But the problem is, the demand whenever anything gets nerfed, whenever anything gets changed slightly, the demand, the outrage, ever since Ravi, since before the game was ever released here, there has been absolute rage from the Korean side of things when it was just out there, and further on into our side of things whenever anything got changed. So they stopped changing things that were negative, and that's how we are here. If they had just continued doing what they were doing and balancing up and down and up and down and up and down and little bits here and there, I think we'd be in a much better spot. But they were kind of forced into a corner and forced not to do that, because every time they did that, they had to give a player like an ML5 selector or something like that. And that's not really a thing that's okay. Like, it's semi-okay. Like, I'm of the opinion that nerfs are okay in gacha games. It's just where I'm at. I just prefer nerfs in games. I prefer a lot of nerfs. I prefer a lot of buffs. I prefer a lot of changes just in general to keep the game fresh. And I'm not the type of person who's like, wow, my character got nerfed, I need a refund, you know? Because everybody's getting changed regularly. As long as there are semi-adequate ways to build new units, which I think we have a problem with here as well as gear and stuff like that. So there's so many things going on with this situation behind the scenes that have been caused and have been brewing for 3 years straight. Like I said, if you haven't been there since day one, you would have missed a lot of these things that happened to cause Smilegate to react this way, right? So that's that. Let's get into it a little more. So we have been receiving common opinions for players about the current meta, and our thoughts about it are not much different. The most important goal is balance adjustment for us to improve the utilization of heroes and artifact based on data. That's kind of the other thing I just want to mention as well, was when they first started doing these balance adjustments, they said how much our opinion mattered and how much they would change things depending on our feedback. They said the reason why these balance patches or these balance patch notes previews were out 3 or 4 weeks before it actually went to the server is because they were going to use our feedback and change things because of it. And they have literally never done that. Not once. If anybody's been like, this character is not looking great, you know, this buff isn't changing anything, or this buff is a nerf, they still go through with it. A good example of this is ML Ken, and I can't remember who else. There are a few others that just got not the greatest change, and it just caused a lot of problems with the character. And I'm not sure if MLKen is better or worse now or how that turned out, but the feedback was there and it was definitely a lot listened to. So the most important goal in balance is for us to improve the utilization in heroes and artifacts based on data. We didn't want to put our players in a situation where they must use heroes with the highest stats after putting so much effort and time in raising and improving heroes and artifacts they liked. I mean, we are beyond that right now. One thing that has been bothering me for a while is the amount of damage stuff does. I'm going to compare to Summoner's War in a second. If you're not familiar with Summoner's War, it's a long-standing gacha game, has decent balance, decent to good balance. Everything changes. Everybody's account's different, and there's a boatload of different units. And this game is based on it. The rates are the same for a lot of stuff. The equipment is the same. The stats are the same. The literally everything has base on Summoner's War, and they even use the same names as Summoner's War sets that they changed here in their like help stuff, you know? So it's very evident that they copy and pasted a lot of Summoner's War is what I'm trying to say. And in Summoner's War, I don't remember people counterattacking and killing my unit, you know? Like, I don't remember ever casting a spell or using an ability and having 7 enemies go. I don't ever remember somebody like almost one-shotting my unit with a skill 1. Like, that's just not a thing that happened. There was a lot more tankiness there, a lot more sustain, a lot more durability, a lot less damage, and overall it allowed you to use more units because you can use stuff like Edda, for example, or you can use stuff like Araminta, for example, and cast her skill 3 and not die to a single counterattack. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm very passionate about it. I can tell I'm getting passionate in my voice, so I apologize in advance. So in particular, the voices of players who wish to use certain ML5s, which are most difficult to obtain, was something we could not neglect. This is kind of BS too, because yeah, ML5s are cool, but there's so many other units that are the same thing. It's frustrating for me to see how much focus has been put into ML units in buffing and nerfing and buffing. Actually, not nerfing, buffing and buffing and buffing and buffing. When there's so many units that have been there since day one that people have wanted to use as well, that we summoned for, that we built up, that we invested in. You know, it's not just Moonlight Heroes. I don't even like anybody who's ever talked to me about buffs and nerfs like in depth. The first thing they usually think of is an ML5 hero to change, because that's what's always changed, right? Like I asked them what's on the patch notes or the balance patch, and they say it's probably another ML5 or 2. They don't immediately want the ML5. Like, that's not their go-to buff if they thought about it, but it's their go-to buff because that's what's been happening, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And it says, and we will not deny that we put a higher priority on improving. Okay. Thank you. I should have read of ML5 heroes in World Arena over those of other Covenant heroes. The other thing I want to mention is how they seem to be nerfing stuff for PvE as well. I don't think that's okay. Not necessarily nerfing, but releasing units that don't work well in PvE with their kit because it just says doesn't work on a boss. I think that's another problem that we probably shouldn't get into, but you know, here it is. So, however, due to the high difficulty of acquiring ML5s and long Mystic Summon rotations, balance adjustments made in the past only created an imbalance of benefits between the small number of players who had such heroes. This is really true as well. Again, I've spent thousands of dollars on this game. I also get crystals every month, 3,000 Skystones, I think it's 3,000 or 2,000, I can't remember, from them for being an epic creator as well. So I have more than the average free to play just because of that. And then I've spent $2+ grand, and I've been playing since day one, and I have not missed a login day, and I've done basically every single piece of content that's came out, and I've gotten every reward I can get, and still I'm missing like the vast majority of the ML5s. Granted, I've been extraordinarily unlucky, but it still means as a day one player, I'm not affected by a lot of these buffs. In fact, I am affected just negatively because they're only being used against me. So I imagine a lot of people are in this same position. So in addition, giving the new heroes competitive stats and abilities equivalent to the dominating heroes was another major reason that worsened the current issue. We aim to have more diverse heroes get their role in Arena, Guild War, and World Arena. Our balance team has been aiming to curb power creep since its launch. Are you sure? Maintaining the value of heroes and equipment of players as much as possible to provide an environment where players can enjoy E7 for a long period of time. However, this resulted in an issue where there was not much change in the PvP meta and battle flows were becoming stale. We've been trying to alter the meta by applying changes through periodic balance adjustments. The meta last summer, where Covenant heroes had disadvantages over each other, can be an example. However, our decision of trying to move the Moonlight heroes that were less used at the center of the meta without sufficient consideration or improvements in the acquisition of Moonlight heroes is what we regret the most. Not only because we have failed to keep the balance of the heroes that we had carefully improved and managed, mainly because we have greatly undermined the trust of our players. This is really well said. This is a lot of what I feel. This is really a lot of what I feel. And again, I must say that a lot of people love the ML5 buffs and nerfs because they're really lucky, or they just happen to have the ones that are there, or they're a whale and spend a ton of money and get all the mystics, right? But I'm not one of those people. So I've been feeling this for a very, very, very long time. And I feel like a lot of the changes that I've received with the units have not been good enough to make them useful, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Our intentions moving forward are partially reflected in this. See, this kind of is sketchy. Like, didn't you do a bunch of ML5s there? And weren't a lot of the changes not great that people gave feedbacks on? Like, some of them were pretty sweet, but I feel like a lot of the voices were not heard here as well. In the future, we will not improve ML5 heroes that are not used as much unless we confirm that it is a way that will improve the current game state. We will also do our best to prevent certain heroes from becoming excessively powerful, even if it is necessary to create new metas to changes in the meta. Also, to indirectly curb the power of some Moonlight heroes, we will try to improve the Covenant hero and special change heroes further. So this is pretty cool to read as well, but they specifically do not mention nerfs here, and I think it is impossible to get where we are, to get away from where we are for the most part without a bunch of changes and nerfs. I really feel that way just with how oppressive everything is, because not only is it just oppressive, it's just extremely unfun. It is so unfun to use an ability to take your turn and be like, wow, if I do anything, my unit dies on my turn. You know, that is not fun. That's not a good system. It's like if you're playing Magic the Gathering and you're one of those Timmy Green players, you know? And I'm sitting here playing mono blue way back when it was really good with a bunch of counters and killing everything and bouncing everything, and I'm just ruining your fun. And it's fun for me, but it's not really fun for the other player, and you're never really always in that one position. So just another thing here. So if these changes do not produce enough results to satisfy our players, we're also considering readjusting the stats and effects of current class signs and exclusive equipment. This is another thing I want to mention, is class signs are just kind of trash. I don't think they should have class signs with every character with the same stats. I think that's nonsensical. I think they really, really should just have class signs as a kind of like a lore system, you know, like a fun aspect, like an aesthetic thing. And I don't think they should be like, well, it's a mage, it can't have more than 4,000 health, and then your Araminta's gonna die instantly at every hit, you know? I don't think they should have that. I think they should have different things for each character. Exclusive equipment started off really strong as well, but I think they started lacking on them as well, and I think they need to do more characters. There's no reason that so many people, like Araminta, for example, don't have exclusive equipments. It's just kind of unacceptable with how much other characters have gotten and how long we've gone. I can understand the first little bit of exclusive equipments, only giving out to a few, testing it out, see what works, see what doesn't, and then doing like a massive shakeup to the meta that tosses a ton of exclusive equipments, where you have a patch where people have to decide which ones to build first, you know, and it's just a whole nother thing. And I'm getting heated. Calm down. What does it say? However, we will prioritize on creating positive changes in the meta by causing the least inconvenience as possible to players through balance adjustments and by adding EEs and SC heroes as changes in class signs and exclusive equipments may affect content other than PvP where players have their heroes and equipment specifically equipped. Do you notice the one time they mention PvE content, it's as a basis to say, like as an excuse to not be able to do something? Nothing else is mentioned except for that. So the process may take more time, and we would appreciate our players understanding that we are prepping changes as carefully as possible, because modifying the current structure significantly or intervening directly by nerfing specific heroes. They mention nerf. This is the first time they mention actual nerfs. Could lead to greater issues. This is great. They specifically mentioned it, that it's a possibility here. That's really cool. In addition, we will make great efforts to provide a more enjoyable game through the following systematic adjustments and to further positively affect performance balance between heroes. Okay, so they're actually giving us some information. So equipment sets are great tools to grant. Yeah, we know that. For example, the injury set on Belian and pen set on other heroes has been reassessed by players, and their usage rates of them has been increased. So, the ratio of wearing equipment. So the max is 200%. So I don't really know how to read this correctly, but is this saying 55%? So 25% of units have speed sets on? I don't fully understand. I don't understand how to read this, but basically it's obvious speed sets are most common, which is impressive because it's a 4 set versus a 2 set and a 2 set and a 2 set and a 2 set. That's pretty impressive. And if you look at speed set at 55% here, we can see the next highest. I guess we should look over here. At 54%, I guess it's still 55, we can see the next highest 4-piece set is attack at 5%. And then destruction. Oh, counter at 8% and defense, or no, that's resist, sorry. This is hard for me to read. And then injury is at what? 1% for injury, so that's basically just Belian. So it's pretty obvious that there's a problem with speed set, either in the way base stats are now, with people ranging up to 129, and golly gee, I bet there's going to be a 130 soon. So something definitely needs to change here. Balance adjustments on EQ sets will widen the selection of sets, allowing players to discover new values for heroes, and along with continuous balance adjustment on heroes, will eventually make the current mainstream meta far more flexible. Okay, so balance adjustments on EQ sets. We will improve the current equipment, something that has a large role in the balance of PvP, in order to expand its synergy with the heroes. We will once again closely evaluate efficiency of the most used equipment sets before planning improvements, so we can gradually form a system where EQ sets are advantageous and disadvantageous to each other. As the current equipment set will be addressed simultaneously with other players, be very challenging for us to resolve issues regarding meta in a short period of time. Nevertheless, we will do our best to implement gradual improvements in this game as soon as possible. So honestly, equipment sets definitely have an issue here, right? Like, obviously this many people use speed, that's a problem, but I don't see how this is easily or even fixable, period, right? Because this number is always going to be up there unless something ridiculous changes. And I can't even think of what's ridiculous that could change here. To be able to do this. And the thing is, even counter set, as ridiculous as it is and how oppressive as it is still only 8.5% versus 55. So I just don't see what they could do here. I really hope they don't like look at the amount of speed and then buff counter set, you know? That would be ridiculous. And for reference, in Summoner's War, when we talked about how much damage things do, counter set was a 2-piece set, I believe, and it was barely used because people's skill 1s didn't blow the enemy out of the water or AoE them for 6k and debuff them, you know? Like, it's just wasn't a thing. Okay, balance adjustments on equipment sets will improve the current equipment, something that has a large role. Wait, I read that, it's fine. So new equipment sets. We are concerned, as much as many other players are, that making adjustments on the current equipment sets would not be enough to make changes in performance, balance, and PvP. So we'll use new equipment sets to give more selection. New EQ sets will be attainable from hunts that are currently available. That's really good. Actually, I don't know if it is really good. I like new hunts. New hunts are fun as long as they're not ridiculous. With no new hunts that will be released for the equipment sets. For example, Golden Hunt that currently drops materials for 3 sets will be changed to drop materials for a new equipment set as well, so that players are able to obtain the parts without putting additional effort, such as forming a new team to clear a hunt. See, this is kind of weird to me, because this isn't effort to me. This is fun. It's like they look at the game to be PvP and PvP and PvP and nothing else. But I actually personally really enjoy a lot of the PvE and figuring out stages sometimes, unless, like I said, they go overboard. So that's kind of an interesting perspective. Let me know what you think about that. Like, would you enjoy a new hunt? I'm really curious. And also, just to mention, I have no impact for the most part. I give your feedback, the community's feedback, to them. I don't give my feedback. So whatever I say here is not like the feedback I give them, you know? If I think X, but you all think Y, I'm not going to tell them you should do X, if that makes sense. Just to clarify. We will do our best to carefully review all aforementioned changes to prevent a huge impact on the current system and introduce them to our players as soon as possible. This is long. We're halfway, boys, and it's 21:25. Improvements to PvP. From the next regular season, pre-ban and World Arena will be applied to 2 heroes. This is really good. I do really like that. As well as the extended pre-ban, the Battle Frenzy effect will have continuously reviewed adjustments. Such improvements will enable us to quickly respond to the meta and dominated heroes. For example, if DPS tank meta is excessively dominating, Battle Frenzy effects will be adjusted to weaken the predominant meta in the short term. So, one thing that actually got me to play RTA and other games is either like a rotating global ban list or limits on the amount of stars you can use, or only 4 stars or only 3 stars, or something similar to that. That's what gets somebody like me playing. While this is great for competitive players, I think just being able to ban like Clelius and one more oppressive unit would not be enough to get me to play, but it's definitely a good start and definitely great for the people playing RTA. They're also adding the E7 WC mode, and this is an example of something I might really enjoy because it's a best of 3 or best of 5 depending on the league, and you can't use the same character twice, and if a character gets banned in round 1, they're banned for round 2 as well, and the bans in round 2 are banned for round 3 as well. So that's fantastic. This is the type of thing I think is great. So 3v3 team mode. This new mode is designed to be more casual than World Arena, but more challenging than Arena. In the new mode, each player forms 3 offending teams and battle against 3 defending teams. This is really cool. I like this as well. I really hope they find a way to get us to do this. Ultimately, by introducing the new PvP mode, we are aiming to raise the value of heroes when forming teams. So short-term system improvements for diversifying heroes in meta, medium hero equipment set balance adjustments, and long-term optimized PvP environment. As well as objectives listed above, we are also prepping a major patch for the second quarter, starting with the recent improvement on summoning ML heroes. That is not a recent improvement. If they're talking about adding ML4 pity, that's not an improvement. That is whale bait. It does not affect it doesn't affect anybody but the 0.001%. Like, yes, I guess the option is there for you to use it, but it's generally just incorrect to do so. It's just, I don't think it's a good idea, and I think if you're summoning on ML4 pity, you're not getting your mystics worth, basically. Especially as somebody like, I couldn't imagine, I wouldn't have any ML5s. I hit pity on ML5s every time if I try to summon on ML4 pities, and I just don't think it's a good idea. And also, I really feel like this leads them to release people like AOL, because that's what makes them money, right? So this scares me, this change. We are planning to introduce changes so that players may obtain and raise heroes and artifacts more easily, and obtain equipment with high enough stats for PvP battle faster. So that's obviously amazing. I would love to see more ways to raise heroes, specifically Molagora still for me. And even like, I awakening materials and stuff now, and skill up materials, because nobody really farms scenarios anymore. And I'd also really like to see more ways to upgrade artifacts and equipment, because holy, I have so much equipment that I can't upgrade because I'm out of gold, because I have to spend them on mystics, and I'm out of charms because I use them all. So yeah. So we then have second quarter E7 major update with hero equipment and growth. Introducing of new equipment sets, so that's happening second quarter. Third quarter is arena 3v3 mode. That's a snoozer. Still good, but not as good as major update. And improvements on current equipment sets. I wonder if they're going to reduce the speed. Because that's pretty insane. And fourth quarter, this doesn't mean nothing. It just means nothing announced yet. Improvements on current and new equipment sets. So wow, this was a lot. I was not expecting to get this heated about this, but I hope people enjoyed this. Our balance team has been aiming to curb. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually pretty important. In the future, we will not improve 5-star Moonlight heroes that are not used as much unless we confirm. I don't think that's a good thing. That's not the point, you know? The point is that you're not that you're buffing Moonlight heroes, it's that you're not buffing other people and not nerfing other people. So I really hope they take that to heart and understand it, because, you know, like, that isn't the problem. You can change Moonlight heroes, you can do whatever you want, but do more of it, basically. So yeah, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go get a drink, and we're gonna stop. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, and have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.